Hello, I'm Kathy Bissell. Welcome to the Golf Show 2.0. We have an extra special guest today, and I think you can tell by the items hanging behind Gary and behind me, it might have a connection to CBS. Gary, would you do the introduction?
Well, Shirley doesn't need an introduction, so I'm just going to say it's Dottie Pepper. Because usually when people say he or she needs no introduction, they proceed to give a lengthy introduction. Well, do you or don't you? She doesn't. Dottie Pepper, famous golfer, 17 wins, 2 Paradigm Shore Nabiscos, and your second career has been as good as your first, I would say.
Yes, I'd say
Dottie,
so.
the bad news is break time is over. Next week, CBS Golf returns at the Farmers Insurance Open at Torrey Pines. So are you ready? And what have you been doing on your, I don't know, summer vacation, even though it's not summer?
Yeah, Alice Cooper, school's out for summer.
Yes.
I've been off since the end of August. I haven't skied, but I've done just about everything else in between and really just kind of gone through a really nice reset where golf wasn't at the sole focus of what we were doing and prepping for, and gotten a lot of projects done around the house. So now I know when I'm starting to create projects for myself, it's time to get on the road because I've gone through the list and now I start to create problems for myself and for my husband. So it's time to go back to work.
Yeah, well, that's the sure sign.
Yeah, it's time.
Great way to keep a relationship going. Great
and
way
my
for,
golf dreams have come back.
Oh, that's good.
So my golf nightmares that happened when I was playing, and I'm still working in television, talking about people playing. The same dreams come up at about this time every year, and they've started.
What is that? The dream where you're late for your tee time? You can't get there, or what?
Late for tee time.
Okay.
You're on a tee box, and wherever you put the golf ball to try to tee it up, there's a branch, something that's in the way. You can't make a full backswing. And the other one, for whatever reason, I get a golf ball stuck in the back of a filing cabinet and I can't get it out.
That's really weird.
That would be inconvenient during a tournament.
That would be highly inconvenient. So read into it whatever you like, but they have come back. So that's how I really know it's time to go back to work.
Well, that's yeah. Everybody has their own version of. In class, I'm back in high school. I have to go to class, but I don't know where it is or how to get there.
Same thing, and it finally stopped. But now that you've mentioned it, it'll probably come back again. After I graduated from Furman, I was one class short and couldn't find the registrar's office to explain why or register to get that one credit that I needed to graduate. I already had the linen in my hand, but there was such a threat to fail out all the time that I think it just emblazoned that scar tissue.
I just read something before we came on the air here that I didn't know about you. You had contacted Clemson University about playing golf, and incredulously, they did not have a women's golf team. Is that right?
Not until about a decade ago, Gary.
It's many
really new.
Didn't have women's golf.
Right, but you would think Clemson in the ACC powerhouse in the South would have had women's golf, and they did not. They had obviously a very good and historic men's golf program, but no women until just about maybe just a touch over a decade ago.
So I'm old enough to remember when Title IX came in.
Yeah.
And when it was finally passed, I just said to myself, well, at least my daughter and people her age and after that will have a chance to participate in athletics, because when I grew up, there wasn't anything. And then the second thing was it was considered not ladylike to sweat in front of boys. So
well, we've gotten over that, haven't we?
No, I mean, it sounds really silly, but that's exactly kind of what we were taught. And you're from New York and I'm from Illinois. And so I think that's kind of the way it was. That's the way we grew up.
Yeah.
So that's why.
Yeah, no, there's opportunities especially for women in golf, have changed immensely since I went to school. And since I think I wrote that letter to Clemson somewhere around 1980. I went to the guidance counselor. Yeah, so I graduated from high school in '83. I've been playing some competitive golf. Went to the guidance counselor. As you know, you start thinking about what you want to do, and they have this dot matrix printer hooked up to this archaic computer system, and you just put in your interests, and mine interests and where. So it was communications, golf, not women's golf. Golf, there wasn't an option for men's or women's, and south of the Mason-Dixon line as far as geography goes.
Yeah.
And out popped Clemson among other schools, but wrote a letter there. And fortunately, and I would say extremely fortunate, the head coach that got it sent it to Willie Miller, who was the head coach at Furman and was teaching at his golf camp at Furman at Clemson that summer. So that's how I ended up 40 miles up the road.
I know somebody else.
You probably get this question all the time, but can you explain to people, what is a paladin from Furman? What is a paladin?
It's a knight on horseback, and he's damn cute.
Well, more importantly, it's purple. So I like that color.
And the name of my second child, who was jet black and had a purple tongue.
I don't know where to go from that. Hey, so you're going back to Torrey Pines.
Yes.
We're now hearing that, we got the whole live thing going on, and
they lost a
Farmers
sponsor.
Insurance is one of several sponsors that decided the price has gotten too rich for their blood. What do you think's going on? Where do you think this is going on the PGA Tour?
Well, I don't know that it was necessarily too rich for their blood. A lot of things change because whoever comes in is maybe not a golf fan, not a tennis fan, not a skiing fan, whatever. Yeah. So I think it's really unfair just to label it's too expensive. And things change. Look, it happens. We're not in great economic times in general in this country and the world, I don't believe. And sometimes when you're laying off employees, it's hard to put up dollars to do a golf event or any event. So I think we're in a little bit of a squeeze in general, but I don't know. It's going to happen. I don't think it'll be the last. I think it's a cycle, probably partly because of what's happening with the cost of running events. It's not even just the purse money. It costs more to just put on an event, period. Labor costs have gone way up, as we all know. Those stands don't just go up like that. TV towers don't just go up like that. They don't go up for free. So there's increased cost across the board to do anything. And yeah, there are layoffs going. My cousin just got laid off this week. So there's there's hurt going around, and sometimes it's not very good optics when you're spending money on sports.
Yeah. Well, the tour's recycled sponsors. This is not a new problem, but they've done a phenomenal job of finding sponsors, not only for tour, but for the senior tour, Corn Ferry Tour, and not as much on the Canadian tour and the lower tours, but you're looking at more than 100 sponsors a year, and they've done incredible through good times and bad. They keep filling those slots.
Yeah, and I think
they upgrade them too. They move them from one tour to the next tour to the next tour if somebody has an appetite for more. So
that's right.
That's like a feeder system that they have.
And I think it speaks to the strength of relationships, because you don't just spend $25, $35, $45 million to hold a golf event and to activate it across an entire season, which is really what your ask is. Yeah. And look at what the LPGA has done. They've done the same thing. It's been a revolving door, and you build strong relationships. And if something happens, change of boards, change of CEOs, change of marketing philosophies, all of that, you keep those relationships in a pipeline so that you can weather storms like this.
I wanted to ask you a question that isn't exactly about golf, but it's kind of about your life. You were first famous for being on the golf course. And then I'm going to guess that when you went from playing golf to being on television on a regular basis, your fame blew up exponentially. How did you learn to adjust to that? And what do you do to get comfortable with having people surrounding you pawing and stuff? I mean, that's a different world than playing golf, and playing golf is a different world than being an average, ordinary person.
gosh.
It is an adjustment, right?
It's an adjustment, but I think it also helped with the advantage I had of having a dad who was on this cover of Sports Illustrated.
Okay, that
I
would
mean,
help.
you just, yeah, you understand. I think there are different higher expectations. There's a higher standard that sometimes you just have to suck it up, and that's what it is. And people are always watching. So I think I'm also very, very lucky that when I come home, I live in a town of 28,000 people. I am very much an average resident. I live on a quiet street. I participate in civic projects around town. I live like a normal human being, and I try very much so to not let what I did as a player or the job I currently hold be my identity, but just kind of be what I do. It's my job, but it's not my identity. And I think keeping that grounded is a big part of just surviving in a fishbowl.
Yeah, you've got people waving hi and saying hello when you're trying to pump gas. You don't know who they are.
Exactly.
But you've been in their living room. They think they know you.
Yeah.
Right. And they sometimes, what still kind of blows me away. So I've been doing this now since the middle of 2004. People recognize you sometimes because you don't see me very often on camera. I try not to be seen, frankly. I'm a walking reporter. I'm not sitting in the 18th tower. I'm not calling holes. I'm a reporter. But people recognize you for your voice, and somebody will turn around in a tram at an airport, or they just recognize you by your voice. And I'm thinking, I don't even like my voice, but people recognize me, and they're like, "Oh, we love your voice on the weekends." And I'm thinking, yeah, because I put you to sleep sometimes. Snoozing on the couch watching golf.
Yeah, they don't let you talk that long to put anybody to sleep. So you're in and out with your snippets of information, and
I try.
It works well. Are we going to see anything significantly different on CBS telecast this year?
I think we'll try probably a little bit of new technology that I'm pretty excited about.
Okay.
That's that I think will be really relatable for the viewer, and really understanding how golf swings work. So that I think is going to be very fun. And I think it's important that we don't just compare tour player to tour player, but we relate it back to the viewer so that they can learn about how freaking amazing these guys are and their physiological abilities to do what they do with a stick and ball, but also how that maybe you can get just a little bit better by doing some of the things that they do and be able to do this in slow motion, so you can really kind of grab onto it a little bit better and make it more about the viewer, so that they can improve and they can take some from that. But I think overall, we're just trying to get cleaner, tighter, have a little more fun, and work hard at continuing to try to push the envelope to get better and better and better every week. We've got a bunch of workaholics in our A unit, and a bunch of really talented people, and we've got really good communication. We're on a call with Nance earlier, and we have a CBS team thread that is constant. And there is not, I can promise you, a day that goes by that somebody's not throwing something out there that generates conversation. So it's not like we haven't been together since the end of August. We just haven't physically been together. We're constantly, clipping here and talking about this there. And it's a tight-knit bunch that we actually like each other, and, play hard, work hard.
What's not to like?
Yeah, it's good. I think we're really ready to get going.
Yeah.
Are you the first woman to be on the ground or in a tower at the Masters?
Yes to both. Yes to
Good.
both. Yeah.
You do 13, isn't that right?
I was at 13. Now I'm on the ground. I was at 13 so I started at 13 in 2016, which was my first year at CBS. Had the 13th hole and the 4th hole.
Okay.
So I had a par 5 and I had par 3, and I also was doing the post event interviews. As soon as play cleared 13, I was to go up to the clubhouse and wait for interviews. And then 2020 happened. COVID hit. So the April Masters didn't happen.
Yeah.
And I got the call in October from Lance Barrow, who's our former producer, that
Yes.
ran everything at CBS to say, are you ready to go onto the ground? Do you have any interest? And I said, yep, I'm going right back to the gym. because it's a brutal walk. I mean, I know Kapalua is hard. It's not on our schedule. It's the hardest walk of the year on our schedule for sure.
Yes.
Followed shortly behind by Muirfield Village. But it's there's nearly it's like almost 13 stories of elevation change from the first green, which is the highest point, down to the around somewhere around the 11th, 12th green. And coming up out of the corner at 13 is the lowest point. It's not an easy walk, but darn, it's cool to be out there doing it.
Yeah, the International Castle Pines wasn't on anybody's favorite list of.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I'm sure it wasn't.
I'm sure it wasn't. But it was pretty.
Yeah,
it was just a really tough walk.
Yeah.
So, did you get any additional attention or glory or anything for being the first woman, or did they just treat you like another one of the guys? I would imagine it'd be the latter, but I don't know.
It's the latter for sure. I'm happy to be just one of the guys. And I think Judy Rankin set such a high bar for that. Yeah. She had great respect for everybody she worked for. She was sort of a den mother to a lot of the BAs and the PAs and the kids that are the runners, and just trying to keep an eye out for people that are on their way up. And she did such a great job with that with me that and she was just a member of the team.
She was a kind and lovely person to be around, and
still is.
I'm sure to work with. Yeah.
Yes.
How many pimento cheese sandwiches have you downed in your career?
0.
I'm with you.
They're disgusting. I mean, just the smell of it. Now the egg salad, I
think I had egg salad the last time I was
horrible.
there.
I do like their egg salad.
Do you still play golf for fun at all, or you physically able to, or can you enjoy it, or do you not interested anymore? I mean, it's kind of like being a bricklayer, and then when you retire, you're going to go out and lay bricks for fun. What's it like for you?
I'm glad you said that. So it would be like a lawyer who is retired and taking up a couple of cases just for the hell of it. I have 0 interest in doing it just for the hell of it. And I've had my physical issues that kind of keep me from doing it at the level I would. But I'll be honest with you, I gave up so many things to play at the best level that now I'm doing those. I have no problem going out and trying to continue even at my age to ski better, be in the canoe and get better at the strokes to be able to move deeper, faster, be up at a cabin and just be able to shut the world off. Be in my garden. I drive our landscaper crazy because I'm about the turf. I want a great yard. I'm constantly screwing around with the irrigation system and all that sort of stuff. Those were the things I really couldn't do when I was playing, schedule wise, and just the physicality of it. And I don't feel a craving to get on the golf course with a club in my hand. I'll go chip and putt and I'll kind of kedink around and be around the game. But it's a really good break to be doing this 20 weeks a year with the stuff that goes on the shoulders of it, to be able to just not have to be on the golf course and do other things.
That sounds a lot like what I read in a pretty good book called Letters to a Future Champion by Dottie Pepper, which I took out. The main point is it's all about trying to get better. And you just talked about trying to get better at canoe, I think anybody who's competitive, which kind of was what I grew up with, and I think maybe the older generation did, you competed for everything. And it's interesting that you're doing that in your other activities too. But to me, that was a big point of that book. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, funny, I read a quote a few weeks ago and it said, "I'm so old, I used to have to win to get a trophy." So, that's kind of my thing. It's trying to always get better at whatever you're doing. And, I was so fortunate to have a mentor like George Pulver who believed in that, but not to the extent that it compromised your life away from, or a life separate from golf. It was a job, and it was a job that I loved, but his whole point, especially about kids specializing early, about getting burned out, was that if you're not having fun with it, what are you doing? Give yourself the free rein, the leash length to go do something else for a while until it starts really kind of burning in your soul again to go back to do whatever it might be, whether that's golf, whether it's tennis, whether it's being in the garden, whatever it might be. So, just kind of pay attention to those cues that you're getting, that it doesn't have to be life and death. And
the fun of a lot of activities, especially sport, is trying to get better. I mean, that's that competitive thing, but that's the fun. Not only just getting better, but maybe you want to get competitive and get better than the other girl, the other guy, and beat them. But just to get better should be a universal thing. And I don't know if it still is, but
I don't do stuff to get worse. I don't know about you.
And I couldn't even, and I can't spell mediocre. So I guess we're all in the same boat.
Oh, I can spell mediocre. A lot of things I don't do well, but I do them anyway, either because I enjoy them or because it's a challenge or for some other reason. And there are things that, you have to do. Like you have to get the weeds out of the yard and you have to clean the house and, other things like that. But, and some people are wonderful at that. I'm not wonderful at it, but I get it done.
Yeah.
How did your book do sale-wise? For people who don't know, it's a collection of letters you exchanged with your coach, George Pulver, over the years.
Yes.
You saved them in a binder that I think you traveled with during your playing career so you could keep looking at them. And you always thought it would be a book, and you eventually got around to putting them in a book. Has it done a couple of printings? How did it do?
So 3 printings in total, sold out.
Great.
Went through everything. I've got, I did a few leather bound covers that I still have that are up on my website, but everything, all the paper, all the soft covers and all of the regular hard covers are gone. And it took about just over 2.5 years, I think. Didn't do Amazon, did it all. I filled every order myself. And it had a few vendors. It went to Ostad's and it went to PGA Tour Superstore.
Yeah.
USGA had it on their website. And I think there's still a couple of local bookstores in this area, independent bookstores had it. But I went through nearly 5,100 copies. So pretty proud that we started small, and I think he would have been really pleased.
Well, I was going to say, not only should you be proud that you accomplished that whole thing, but it's a tribute. You revive the memory of somebody that a lot of people don't know about, and it's a great memorial for him.
It was, and I had such great support from his family. His middle daughter is still alive. We still correspond weekly. She's in the DC area. Was in the media business her whole life, working for Gannett. So there's lots of ties there. But I think one of the coolest things that's come of all of it is people writing me letters and saying, because of it was sort of a trigger reading the book, that they would reach out to somebody who had been their mentor at some point in their life and reconnected. So that was completely unforeseen. But I would say this book was, for me, was a big silver lining to the COVID lockdowns and pretty much what we had to do on the road to get back on the air at CBS. We weren't allowed out of our rooms at night, basically. Everybody was just, you go in, you go to work, you go back. And I wrote a book that summer. So it was pretty great. And by the time we got to December, had gone down to Bay Hill to spend some time because the Arnold Palmer Cup was played in December that year. And I remember sitting there with our brand new puppy and going over cover designs. So it started in March and we hit the printing press 11 months later. So it happened relatively quickly because there wasn't, as you remember, a whole heck of a lot to do. So I wrote and I edited and I learned how to do an index, and I learned a lot. I learned a lot.
Well,
what fun.
You give speeches on mentorship these days, don't you?
I do. And a lot of it's based on just what I learned from him and things that I've learned from people like Judy Rankin. There was a pull-out section of the book just on Judy itself and her story and people who mentored her. So I think this is a story that doesn't really have an end, but it had a pretty great beginning for me, for sure.
It reminds me a little bit of the Nick Saban video where he's talking about mediocre people hate exceptional people because they can't compete with them, and exceptional people don't like mediocre people because they're not helping. And I have these practices so we can I want to get the people on the bus or figure out who gets on the bus, and I can figure out who doesn't get on the bus.
Yeah.
And it's not a dissimilar message.
Weed it all out. Yes, absolutely. And I think when you combine that, when you can combine highly driven people with perfectionism, it can turn out kind of poorly, or it can turn out really well if you recognize what's going on. And Saban surely recognized what's going on. Bill Belichick recognized what's going on. You know, people that are highly driven expect certain things. And if you understand the mechanics of that, and I guess the philosophy of it, you can manage it.
I don't want to make you feel old. Go ahead, Kathy.
As people who are good at something like golfers, for instance, I always thought that they had to be just a little bit compulsive, and because you're not going to be good if you kind of like, oh, I'll kind of do that. You know, I mean, you really have to make an effort to play golf at the highest level, whoever you are. I mean, it's hours and hours and hours, and you have to want to hit sand shot after sand shot and putt after putt and drive after drive. And you have to be willing to be really bad at stuff first in order to get really good at it. I mean, it's hard. So you have to be driven by something not normal to play golf.
I think, I think you're right. And I think you need to be prepared for progress to be sometimes a little slower than you would like it to be.
Yeah.
And I think that's what kind of terrifies or discourages people from taking it up sometimes, because generally you're not very good right away. And sometimes it can be a little jarring, especially if you've been good at other things. It's like, well, why can't I do this? And why I think as we've gone through these last few years, that people realize it's okay to not be very good at it. And you can go to a place like Top Golf where there's a lot of people that aren't very good at it, and we're all together and it works. You know, kind of the facade comes falling down, and it's like, oh, well, there's a lot of other people here just like me, and it's okay.
But I'm eating my cheeseburger better than that guy.
That's right. That's right.
Well, I was just going to say, it's sort of an anniversary year for you. It's 25 years since you last won the Dyna, I think. How is that possible?
That is absolutely correct. And how is that possible? That does not seem possible. And it doesn't seem possible that this is what I guess year 21 for me doing television. I've now done this longer than I played on the LPGA Tour. So how did that happen?
I mean, but I'm the same way. She's just thinking, the Civil War just ended. How did we get here?
Exactly. So what's that? What did 25 years ago look like for you, Gary?
It's hard to remember because it goes so fast. That was back in the golden age of weekly magazines like Golf World and Sports Illustrated. And honestly, I'm sad that there's not some kind of version of that now, because we're getting hardly any original reporting, not only from the PGA Tour. There's only a couple of people out there reporting. LPGA, there used to be people covering that tour. There really isn't. The senior tour, and even Live Golf, if you want to go in a witness protection program, that's a good place to go right now. They're
funny.
If we were back in the 90s, there'd be somebody, Golf Week and Golf Digest and whomever, Sports Illustrated would have somebody at each of those events,
probably dedicated.
And you'd be reading it. And, I think that's a big challenge for the LPGA to have these tournaments overseas. And I think that's the problem with the World Tour that people are talking about now with Rory. When you're out of sight, you're out of mind.
Yeah.
And I think for Americans, especially if there's tournaments in China or Japan, I don't care how big they are, I don't think they're going to pay attention to them.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, there's that. But I think Americans in general need to realize that golf didn't start here.
What?
Oh, right. It's right. It's not just an American sport. It's not just American television. We don't.
Is it provincial in our own way? It's kind of a big
I guess we are.
Yeah. But
we're a big country and we're isolated by a couple of oceans, whereas in Europe, they learn to live with each other because they're next door.
Well, because they all had wars with each other for like 1,500 years, and they finally got over it.
Yeah, well,
I guess.
sort of.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there's, and you see that with the Olympics when they go, when it's not within 2 or 3, 4 hours of the
Yeah.
American Central, the numbers
Yeah.
aren't as good. There's an appetite for live sports, and I think at some point you got to like put down the feed, your Twitter feed, your X feed, whatever they're calling it
Yeah.
these days, Instagram and all that, and just watch the re-air. It's okay. Golf doesn't get played just in the United States. Don't spoil the party. Watch it for what it is, for great athletes doing exceptional things, and enjoy that. Enjoy the competition instead of just having to know what the outcome is. I mean, you can still, if you tape it, record it, whatever you want to do, you can still flash through the commercials if you have to, but watch it for the competition instead of just the outcome.
Yeah. Well, the key is to getting people to watch, and I'm not sure exactly why people are fascinated by watching players hit balls with sticks, but it's the competition part, I think, that grabs people.
You know, some people watch it because the golf courses are pretty. The tour has done research on what kind of people watch who aren't golfers. I mean, there's a whole herd of people who do not play golf, but they think the visuals are stunning and they like to watch it. They think it's calming. They enjoy the beauty of the setting.
Sure. I think there's something to be said too. Look, network officials are so happy when there's going to be a nor'easter hit the East Coast.
Everybody's stuck inside.
and we're out west playing golf. They love that because people are going to tune in to see some sunshine and green.
I remember watching the California tournaments when it was like blizzards and snowstorms and sleet coming down and stuff you don't want to have happen, but it does every year. So
absolutely.
Well, when CBS goes back to Torrey Pines, the CBS golf season begins. What's your favorite place to stand on Torrey Pines and watch scenery or watch golf, or if you got a little spot that you like? On like Pebble Beach, I love standing up by the 6th green. You feel like you're on top of the world there, looking over the
6, 7. I like actually the landing area at 8 because you can take in the whole curve of the coast there at Pebble.
Okay. What's that? The hole that runs? I guess it's northwest by the ocean. It's right by the ocean on the front 9.
At Torrey?
Yeah.
So that would be the 4th.
3 or 4. Okay. And
so
there's a green that goes down. There's a ravine. You can see
that's 3.
the whole space out there. You can see the ocean. You can see the giant barranca, and you can see the north course. And I like that.
That's the spot for me too. And if you get really lucky, you might catch a few paragliders, and then they'll be flying formations, practice formations with the Air Force and all that out there too. So there's a lot going on besides just golf there, which is always makes for a good view.
Go early and do some paragliding there before the
no, thank you. No, thank you. I will get in an airplane. I will not do that.
Dottie, thanks for spending time with us today to talk about the new season on CBS and Torrey Pines and everything else. We covered a lot of ground.
We did.
Keep up the good work, and thanks for being here.
Tell the guys I still have my CBS T-shirts.
Evidence right behind you.
Yes, right. And don't tell them I have a band that was probably illegally gotten. Not by me.
They let those go all the time.
Fantastic. I love
Thanks again. Have a great season.
Thank you so much.